dreams. And I'd like to start with a poem that kind of echoes one that Denise read near the end. It's a response to, it was also written, it also came through November 9th of the year. And my husband Gary and I were just on our way home from a road trip to California. We went down to the Santa Anita to watch the horses run in the Breeders' Cup. And we were staying with friends in Modesto. Morning after. First light in Modesto on post-election morning. Ears catch early birds, cheerful as ever. Sun gathers in curtains and mind flies back south to National Park, where we stood in impeccable silence of sequoia groves. Towering above all the others, the famed General Sherman tree, 9 horses wide, whose roots have reached deep for over 2 millennia, and who keeps on growing, enhancing forest grove and lives of humans come to pay their respects in a refuge where raven wings swish air clear of strife and folly. I'd like to make a wee request to hold the applause till the end. I mean, you can make sounds and things, but it sort of, it makes a break in the atmosphere a little bit. And so let's just, if you don't mind, unless you absolutely can't contain yourself. So, my poetry, the poems I brought today are a collage of personal and collective, family-oriented and political, but kind of in the broadest sense of the word. And so I actually want to start, as did Denise, with a few poems that are prose poems by Claudia Rankine. Have you heard of her? Wonderful poet who was born in Jamaica and whose book Citizen has been very popular, which I recently discovered. And as a woman of color, she brings enlightenment to we white people's perceptions, along with so many other people of color who are writing and teaching us about things of which we were unconscious. So, this book I recommend with no reservations whatsoever. There's artwork in it. There are stories about people of color who are celebrities, and stories that she collected from her friends about the way that their lives are interrupted by people not seeing them. Because of your elite status from a year's worth of travel, you've already settled into your window seat on United Airlines when the girl and her mother arrive at your row. The girl, looking over at you, tells her mother, "These are our seats, but this is not what I expected." The mother's response is barely audible. "I see," she says. "I'll sit in the middle." These are all true stories that were told, that Claudia elicited standing outside and sometimes it's of course her own voice speaking, standing outside the conference room, unseen by two men waiting for others to arrive, you hear one say to the other that being around black people is like watching a foreign film without translation. Because you will spend the next 2 hours around the round table that makes conversing easier, you consider waiting a few moments before entering the room. Just lots of stories like this. And there's a quotation that I like here by Zora Neale Hurston from the book. I do not always feel colored. I feel most colored when I am thrown against a sharp white background. And the book is about that a lot. It's very, very introspective, and it's very, very piercing at the same time. Has a hood on the front, it's a hoodie, and this was a photo that was made after, oh, I'm forgetting the name now. No, it was before Trayvon Martin. Rodney King. Yeah, so. All right, so we're not going to stay on that note, but I just felt like it was important to interject some reality. Some, this kind of reality. Because where I'm really coming from today is I have a very full heart, and I want to share from that place. And with that in mind, I would like to share a quotation by Gary Snyder, who will be 87 this year on May 8th. There's a world behind the world we see that is the same world but more open, more transparent, without blocks. Like inside a big mind, the animals and humans all can talk, and those who pass through here get power to heal and help. And this is a quotation cited by the cellist Jamie Sieber, whose wonderful CD, Timeless, is worth listening to. It's just meditation, sound meditations. So, in that spirit, sometimes I get my inspiration by being in water. I have the need for water. I'm married to a water sign, and water is an element that's very strong right now in the planets. And so I took a writing workshop, and I took a bath in Epsom salts and lavender oil, and these words came to me. The wind is of the stars from galaxies beyond ours, and Gaia's tempests temporary. The wind comes from the stars. It's just a way of staying with the big picture, like Denise talked about, looking up. Just look up. And I'm going to do one more kind of visionary poem, and then we're going to move to some more solid ground of family. I have a subscription to Poetry Magazine, and the November issue, some of you may receive it, had a marvelous image of Pegasus. And I was so taken by it, it felt like, for me, a shield, an emblem. I'm a horse person. I was born in Stuttgart. Coat of arms is a rearing horse. The horse is my soul animal, my spirit animal. And so I was so taken by this creature, who looks very feminine, actually, not the heroic Pegasus. And she's dark-skinned and slender, rather than that magnificent white Grecian Pegasus. So these words came to me, Your medicine bag holds nature's balms and elixirs freely given. Your swift limbs and gossamer wings carry us to new dimensions, being of boundless love. Heal with gentle strength, unerring arrows of soft focus. We call on you, mare of long-stemmed possibilities. I call it Matrix Mare. So I have a few copies of this, if you like it. It's hot off the press. Okay, so now we're going to get down to earth. And I have a trio of family poems. I'm an only child. I married someone who is the oldest of 9, so I've gotten my dose of big family, big Catholic family, and it's wonderful. So I'll start with a poem to my father, Theodore E. Lapp, who was born in 1904 and is no longer here. The habit of comfort food. When Mom went out alone on Saturdays, my father and I would stand in the white kitchen with red trim and drink milk from circus motif glasses. Dad became a boy again when we tore up slices of Wonder Bread, drowning and slurping up the soggy pieces, my mustache white, his gray. On weekends, Dad's graceful fingers took up violin, his chess pieces, and philosophy books. At concerts, undone by arias, he wept. When I held his hand, it was always warm. Now, when insomnia grips, I reach for comfort, heat milk on the blue burner, add cardamom and honey. Sometimes I notice Dad in my kitchen, seated alone at the breakfast nook. After all these years, he still visits, his hands around a mug of milk.
So good.
Lemon rinse for my mother, Gertrude Lapp. When I wore my hair in a ponytail before the first teenage cut, my mother washed the thick strands in the kitchen sink. She chose the afternoon when western light was good. With water heated to perfect comfort, she lathered twice, then rinsed with fresh lemon juice, the secret of dazzling highlights like on Breck shampoo labels. After the wash, a hurtful detangling, but worth it for the smooth finish. Later on, while an exchange student, the ritual minus lemons reappeared in the basement of a cold water flat in Istanbul. My Turkish grandma heated water in a copper tub, doused me naked as I stood with welcome hot water, working up a lather of olive soap. She made me feel at home, though I missed my mother far away. Now, when I read poems of a mom dividing her daughter's hair for braids, light changing the weave as she tugs, I feel a pang for the child I never bore. As my own hair turns transparent, the ache lingers more. That's one of those things that the end of the poem whacked me. It just hit me by, it came up and I knew the truth of it. Now, here's a list poem for Gramps. My paternal grandfather, who was a rogue Amish, he left the Amish, but was always around the Amish at heart, for Aaron S. Lapp, 1878 to 1974. Awoke with grandfather in my thoughts, not a dream, a lucid viewing of items he'd left behind at 96, just missed earning the presidential letter he'd expected for reaching 100. Plain and meager what Gramps bequeathed. 1001 garden questions answered, 1927. Photo album with black pages and black and white snapshots. Hunk of petrified wood from a trip to Arizona. Hand-tinted photo of himself, framed in gold. A silver money clip and a handful of neckties. The heavy gold watch and chain which lived in his pocket. Objects gathered from the tidy room where he boarded while working at an Amish restaurant in Gap, PA, till his retirement at 94. A bold placard near the kitchen read, "Keep us in mind, for a better place is hard to find." Truth to a grandchild on weekend visits, eager for another silver dollar from Gramps, in charge of grocery and souvenir aisles. Later, years later, to my chagrin, I dropped the watch, rushing to cross a busy street, lost without a trace. 2 Lady Liberty dollars survive from Aaron's ample pocket, icons of a loving bond given substance. And to include Claudia in the picture here, I've got a selfie. I don't have an iPhone, so I do it with words. An ordinary woman, I love sidewalk sales, printed frocks and gladiator sandals, bed linens of Egyptian cotton, fine milled soap from Provence or Lane County. We'll score bargain art at estate sales, like the ebony warrior from Kenya who bears a spear and medicine pouch and became a front door guardian. Picture a skinny lady with white mane, that's me, tossing peanuts to crow escorts. They swoop low, fanning the air. I call in jays, yell stokalo, bon voyage, to geese, pitching notes they can hear. I no longer keep my voice down. Though very lightly brushed by fame, I'm ordinary enough to sigh at bare browned backs of young dudes running. Common enough to imagine the front view. So, having no children, I still have children, and they're cats, or as the Turks would call them, kedi. I don't know if you've seen the movie about cats. And so, I have a few poems that relate to Batman, who's passed away.
Yay!
Yes, and a celebrity. And I also have written a poem about our elder cat who is on the way out. And I hope that he gets some energy from this poem that I read. But first, some Batman poems. Batman was a tuxedo cat. He was born in West Virginia. When you were a very old cat, our neighbors across the street told us of your nocturnal visits to their yurt in the garden where they'd leave out tuna for you. You always came home by dawn and slept so still on the blue sofa with nary a trace of your trick. Batman's death. True to his word, he sent news the May morning of his passing. At daybreak, when small birds sang, he dropped his body, greyhound thin, in the room where we slept, to be with him. By breakfast, A pair of crows landed on the fence by our kitchen window and hung out, silent, the first time they'd ever come in so close. Batman's garden. For days after Batman's death, Ambler would lie on the black soil of his late Pell's memorial garden among gray rocks and flowers, keeping watch, it seemed, a long white forearm extended in front. I added a black cat head, Egyptian style, to adorn the small stone pedestal. Ambler remained steady, his body stretched above the rough wooden box my husband made for our peerless friend. We have many people in the audience who know about that moment. Or so, I should say, one person in particular. Last spring for Ambler, question mark. First new moon of spring, sky clears after days of steady rain, detested by cats. Mauve clouds pass over small lakes in the drenched yard. Still eager for his bowls, Ambler laps a dish of milk, hardly able to smell raw meat or fish skins once adored. Toothless, he manages kibbles, but hunting's out. Blue eyes still follow jays and the fat squirrel who holds peanuts like a prayer. Spring was once his middle name, born to pirouette and dig in dirt, leap straight up into air, then race to sharpen claws on any fence post. He no longer hears my voice, and roomy eyes notice just what's close, startled even by a familiar hand. He used to be the silent type, action his lingo. Urgent high notes now greet me at dawn. These days he's got no compass. Where am I? Where to? Till he heads to shelter from rain under the cedar pavilion to sleep, white shape in red lawn chair. Bardo time has begun, yet he purrs when love is beamed to his eyes, which really do smile back. He seems then a kind white being from another galaxy. Distorted by jaw broken long ago, his grin is off kilter. How he purrs to my touch, how lightly he places his paw on my slipper. Ambler, Mr. Boy, always a boy, never a mensch. Oh. Can you stay? I have a couple more.
Yes.
A couple of local poems. I like to walk in the Pioneer Cemetery near the university and art museum. Local gravestones. 1. Morning walks to the Pioneer Cemetery never grow old for me. Early settlers and soldiers from Civil and World Wars rest on plots shaded by tall old firs. Some markers grandiose, others so worn their names can't be made out. Quaint ones like Minnie, Vernon, Ernest, and Adelaide, which I like saying aloud. I always stop by the obelisk for J.T. Walton Sr., 9/12/1812 to 10/25/1896. Crossed the plains with ox team, 1849. Something haunting about that. That's all we know about him, right? 2. Near the School of Music, flashing streaks of light draw me to a recent gravestone. Surprise! 2 small pinwheels generate silvery slivers, a water wheel effect, someone's brilliance recalled. Placed by loving hands are 2 miniature trucks, a Pooh Bear and crested plastic dinosaurs. Any day, a spirit might stop by the granite stone, which reads, "We love you, Samuel E. Davis, April 2nd, 1990 to October 2nd, 1993. 3. Dear Samuel, you were born and died before the century turned. It was 16 years till I noticed your grave. See how many walk here now on a day in July, some bent over phones, others in singlets who race past markers to those with no more reason to run. Gnats swarm in late sun, continuity sensed by elders who welcome the inflow of new blood, yet hold memories of those who've gone beyond like you only yesterday, or others very long past. And so I write to you, my eyes caught, and you conjured by silver pinwheels turning. And there were so many deaths of famous people from Eugene, and great poets, and Leonard Cohen, and when Eiffel, and not that she lived here, but she was on our TVs, and Mark Clark, the painter, and this is a poem for him. He died in January of last year, and I happened to go to the Karen Clark Gallery, and I hadn't known that he'd died. Lingering. Your spirit clearly lingers, Mark, here in the quiet gallery where I sit alone with your death, facing 3 of your paintings. They glow with inner sun and flare with love for native place, and I feel them breathing for you, conversing and mingling with landscapes by your wife, teachers, colleagues, an amiable family gathering, air charged with affinity as Milky Blue Hill greets Roseate Canyon, and from an adjacent wall, a fallen tree in softest graphite responds, excuse me. That's, I'm thinking of Craig here. I wonder if you sensed you'd soon be off and away once the canvases were so perfectly installed. These recent works with soft edges and liminal colors of a man at peace, placing each brush mark with consequential joy, leaving them behind for us. And of course, we also experienced the death of Rick Bartow, who we were so graced to have his retrospective show at the museum, Things You Know But Cannot Explain. And I had written a poem about one of the pieces in the show, which was a portrait that he had made when his wife passed away. I don't want to be morbid here. This is just, and it's the image is called Big Blonde. Caught by the portrait, visitors to the gallery startled at its presence. At the moment of her passing, all effort relinquished, she's become alabaster, nearly transparent, eyes closed, mouth slack. Her stilled form pierces the eye of her husband, artist husband, his hand compelled by love to sketch the gray outlines of grief. Years later, his oil pastels flare to hail his wife's death mask, her lips crimson on chalk-white skin against a neon orange background. It frames the face like hair alive, her husband's last caress. Well then, let's end with a note of defiance and a note of gratitude. This is for Earth Day. You've heard this before. I have copies available if you like it. I have some green pages of this. Mad with grief. In times like these, to have you listen at all, it's necessary to talk about trees. Adrian Rich. Yo! Burl poachers, under cloak of night with cold brutality and total absence of biophilia, you steal into sacred groves of redwood cathedrals, Earth's oldest trees. Your chainsaws tear open the dense burls trees make for self-healing. How would you like having the scabs on your knees cut away with a jagged hatchet? How dare you hack the heart of an evergreen 400 years old, your own ancestors likely alive somewhere when it was just a sapling? Is it for lust of a fistful of dollars that you lose both mind and heart to murder an elder, its benevolence irreplaceable? I can't ever forgive you these trespasses because I am mad with grief. And this is also a stand-up for the castration of EPA that's occurring right now, I guess you could call it. All right, let's end on a note of life and celebration. The urban hen house. When our friend from Springfield delivers a weekly dozen eggs from hens and pullets of varied breeds, Novagens, a cross between Rhode Island Red and Longhorns, she opens the carton, points out a remarkable palette of colors, and which color hen produces which shade of shell. Red lays pale cafe au lait. Green yields are mutable, sometimes two-tone. White gives soft pink. Blue, a rich brown with white speckles. The darkest eggs emerge from pink hen. These girls have it made. Roomy house built by handy husband, heated in winter, a yard to forage in, fed greens and food scraps. They're held and stroked by their keepers. Those lucky enough to crack open their thick shells are wowed by bright orange yolks and whites firm as meringue, a taste rich and peerless, unmatched in any supermarket. So this is a praise to local urban farming.